All right, so welcome back into another Dragon Ball Super card game video, and today I want to kind of continue the exploring archetypes from the Reboot Mass Saiyan deck that I just posted a little while ago or yesterday, depending on when I actually put this up. Definitely check that out if you can. But this is more to talk about the decks that I've been building, and this is probably the last set 13 deck that I'll probably be talking about. I wanted to do other stuff like Chilled and talk about the jank there, but this is kind of going back to my janky roots in talking about set 2 Zamasu. And honestly, when we look at other blue leaders like Reboot Goku, who untaps and draws and gets a lot of cards in hand, and then we have Super Saiyan 3 Goku, who untaps 3 at the end of the turn, and you can play the Bojack stuff. We have Bojack, who actually does play the Bojack stuff, and then miscellaneous like mid-tier blue leaders like, you know, Krillin and things like that. I think that's where set 2 Zamasu sort of falls into. But when we talk about blue things in general and the things that he has exclusivity or exclusive cards that he can only play, I think it becomes a little bit interesting. And the reason why I chose to talk about set 2 Zamasu and been playing him instead of the other Zamasus, and I basically just think that the backside permanent is really interesting and just something to explore. Because when you talk about blue, and we talk about being defensive, when you talk about putting out something like Tragedy Overground, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, it's a little hard to kill your leader or to kill set 2 Zamasu when you have access to being up to 60 cards in your deck, which means you technically have more life, and as well as all the other blue things with Tragedy that you can put into. And depending on the ban list coming up this weekend, it really, I mean, it could be something viable in which, you know, a lot of these other weird strategies could be coming out. Now, when we talk about the list that I've been playtesting, again, this is more of a janky list, but when you start looking at it and when you start thinking about it, it's like you're throwing all the Zamasu stuff that you could be playing. You could be playing this in the one that has dual attack, or it can pop something. But again, it's really coming back to the permanent, in which if we can, I guess we can't zoom in, but the activate main for the front side is really not that good. You crit a life, and then if it's blue that you put in the drop area, you draw 1 card, and then at the end of when you awaken, is at 2 or less life and you draw 2. Now, I think in my experience, basically every card in your life is basically another draw. You can go ahead and use the activate main maybe once or twice to accelerate your awakening, which is kind of what you want. Anything that isn't crit is basically what you're going to be taking, and every single card up to 2 life is basically a draw. So you're looking at 6 cards in your life that you could be drawing, and then you're drawing pretty much everything else afterwards. And I think multicolor is in kind of a weird place, but blue yellow is interestingly enough one of the few multicolor cards or multicolor engines that you would be playing. And I think that really doesn't apply too much, but you are playing multicolors here. And this deck, I think, has somewhat of a accessibility issue, because there's some stuff that is really expensive, like this card, and as well as this card, and as well as even for Unforeseen Darkness can be up there too. Everything else is pretty affordable, but I think it's worth it, because now you're going to be charging these multicolors, whatever that you could be charging usually the 2-drop or the 4-drop or another 2-drop. And you have options throughout the time that you get Tragedy Overground out, which is what you want, because now you're taking all the life here, you're building up and responding to their threats with blue yellow. And then on the permanent, again, every time that you're taking a life, for those who weren't around for set 2 or whatever this guy was even played, you're taking 5 cards from the top of your deck and milling it out to your deck for each strike. So single strike is 5, double strike is 2, etc., etc. What the weird thing is that the ruling for this is that if you're at 1 life, which is kind of where you want to be anyway, because that is just that extra card, if they do double strike and you can't combo out of it or whatever it may be, you do have to take the 10 cards out of your deck. And it's the same thing for triple strike, same thing for everything else. So just keep that in mind for this leader. But going through it real quick, so you charge a multi, you use the Unforeseen Darkness to pay 2, and then you draw 2, untap 1. And then if you charge a multi as far as a Zamasu, or charge another Zamasu, and you have another Zamasu in your hand, then you go ahead and use the Uni Fusion afterwards if you have the Goku Black Future Decimator And then you can go ahead and do it that way. All right, so let's go through the deck real quick. Basically what you want to do is get Tragedy Overground out as soon as possible, and then get your Unison out, and then any of the other 4-cost threats afterwards. And usually how I do it is charge a multicolor card, probably Zamasu here, and then charge a blue the next turn. Basically take any life that isn't critical from there, and then use the Goku Black here in order to tap 2 or negate the attack, untap 2 afterwards, and then anything that they play afterwards is probably going to be the Zamasu Eliminator, and that way you can use the Fuse Zamasu turn 3 with Union Patora, because they're both the targets that you want, and then use the Future Decimator afterwards, since this is free, and then evolve on top of this guy, or with it on top of this guy, use the 4 energy that you have, and then use Tragedy Overground, and then you can just use Dimension Magic, because by that time you're probably gonna have enough in the drop, or you can use Goku Black and then just Bean afterwards. It really depends on what the matchup is. Just the fact that he draws 2 and not untap, you kind of have to have Bean in this deck. Otherwise, if it does go long, you can use pretty much anything within the deck. The reason why we play 3 of the Awakened Instincts is that if you do take life on the unawakened side, you can just use that to draw 2 and untap 1, or untap 1, drop 1, and then just kind of go from there. You can just use the Tragedy Overground to have that as the target as well. But again, where you want to be is have Tragedy Overground out, have the Unison out, or a Booney or Marichum, and just have them as beaters. And then you can always establish another Fuse Zamasu as well, because this guy's free, and you can just untap or tap 4. And now you have an indestructible dual attack 35k, which they can't play anything 4 or more afterwards. And then basically you can always play Striving to be the best as well, because now is anything that is 2-drop or less can attack outside of their leader, and at 3 cost, they really can't do anything. Oh, and Unisons. Again, Unisons is going to be the thing that you have to have Eliminator for. But I mean, that's pretty much the gist of the deck. You know, I think this is more of a deck that you have to kind of play to understand, you know, what the hell you're even trying to do. But I've had a lot of people just kind of scoop up because, you know, Tragedy Overground says, you know, anything 4 or more has to be placed in their energy area, or in their energy instead. And then as long as you hold an Eliminator afterwards, any of their Unisons is pretty much a done deal. So I think the deck is hilariously fun. I think it does lose again to red because of the indestructible getting around that. I think Mechiabora is kind of annoying because it can steal anything that has indestructible. It can ignore skills. Yellow is annoying because of the same thing. And big beefy Unisons are also annoying. So I mean, when you talk about really any deck that isn't Mecha Frieza or anything that's like tier 1, that again, at this point, we don't really know what the ban list is at the time of this recording, and probably when this is posted. So we don't really know what it looks like next week from now. But I wanted to talk about this and kind of give this out, so that way other people can kind of explore and really just get out of your circle. Really, that's really what I want to see from people. You know, just really think about the things that you could do. And if you don't want to use this leader, try a different leader if you want. But I think this leader makes sense for this kind of build. Let me know in the comments below if you've been using jank or doing jank or use this leader, whatever it may be. Try out the deck on untap or something else, and let me know what you think or what you want me to explore next. I'll see you in the next one.